What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bear Cave. I'm your host for today, Colin. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Drew, also known as Sam Sampson.
I'm Shawn.
For better or worse, I am hosting this podcast today. Why the people in charge deem to put me in charge of this board? I don't know. But yeah, we're here to talk about twist endings today and what makes a good twist, which brings me to a very important thing I need to say at the start of this. Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning.
Major spoilers.
We're going to be spoiling a lot of things. We're going to especially be talking about Frozen in the Book of Eli. Those go. You guys think I'm crazy. This goes together.
The most famous twist movies.
The correlation is so
history.
strong.
This goes together, trust me. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to be talking about, what is it, Unusual Suspects?
I'm going to be talking about The Usual Suspects. That's one of my favorite twists.
Let's go back in time. Back in time to when Frozen first came out. Not the second one, the first one. Back in 2014?
Somewhere around there, I remember.
Yeah, everyone loved it. Everyone heaped with praise. It was the second coming of Christ. And you know me, I was just like, I'm not so sure about that, but that's neither here nor there. One of the things that got a lot of praise, I think, was the twist. It was a twist that no one saw coming, including me. And there's a problem there. The problem is that I knew about the twist. Social media spoiled the twist for me, and so I knew, this is a spoiler for you now, that Hans was the bad guy in the end.
Well, I want to jump in. I want to say I didn't know that this movie had a twist. That's not one of the things I've heard. I've heard of a snowman.
I assume people would be talking about the twist.
Ice powers, and there's a girl that had ice powers, and that's all I knew about it. I never watched it. I was never interested, and the twist part never came to my doorstep.
I guess that's what would make it such a good twist. You wouldn't expect a twist ending in a Disney film, I guess. You went into it blind.
The meta twist is a twist in a Disney movie.
So for you, real quick, the twist is that Hans, who is the love at first sight initially, who Anna is slated to marry for most of the movie, in third or fourth act.
He was like her perfect man.
It gets revealed that he's actually the bad guy of the story, and that he's trying to take over Arendelle. Okay,
I saw bits and pieces of it when I was showing it to my kids. And I was just busy doing whatever. And I saw a part where the guy, he was about to kiss the one girl, and she's
and
like,
then he's like,
oh, we're
Anna,
about to kiss.
Oh, Anna, if only anyone actually loved you.
Now I'm going to be mean. And
thousands of little kids' souls cried out in
oh, that's what that was.
Stress.
Yeah, speaking of that, back on topic, you can't see that twist coming, which is a problem, because I knew it was coming. And as I was watching the movie, I was like, this guy's too nice. He is a good person. He hands out blankets to the people in the town. He saves Elsa when she was going to get assassinated. He smiles nicely at Anna as she walks away, which I'm going to come back to later too. Yeah, I didn't see that twist coming, and I knew it was coming. So I was like, wow, this is the greatest twist of all time. And then my dad showed me the Book of Eli, which is actually, in my opinion, the greatest twist in cinema. Because here's spoilers for the Book of Eli if you haven't seen it. Eli is blind, and you do not know he is blind throughout the entire movie, which is crazy to me because they rub it in your face the entire movie. There are several instances where he's sword fighting and shooting at people, even though he's a blind man, and that kind of throws you off. But there's also weird parts he never moves first when fighting. He always waits for them to come to him. It's only after he gets touched that he's like, oh, you're here, and then he hits you.
It's the only way he can fight.
There's a part where he's getting shot at by a sniper. He waits for that sniper to shoot at him 2 or 3 times before shooting back because he has to listen to know where he is. And he's triangulating his location. There's a moment where it gets held up at gunpoint, and he doesn't even react. He doesn't act like he has a gun held up to him because he can't see the gun in front of him. And then after he gets shot, he looks surprised because he's like, oh, I didn't know there was a gun there.
One of the things that I think is most important with a good twist is the way they reveal it. So I'm wondering, since I haven't seen it, how exactly do they end up revealing that twist?
Well, here's how the movie ends for everybody. The whole plot of the movie is that Eli has a Bible, and it's the post-apocalypse, so books are all gone.
So it's like the last one.
Yeah, he has the last Bible.
Okay.
And the way it gets revealed is that when the bad guy finally gets the Bible and he opens it up, it's in Braille.
Oh, okay.
He wants it to control this town, but he can't read it because the book is in Braille, and his town ends up crumbling. And then there's a really cool shot where it zooms in on Eli, and it shows you his eyes, and there's cataracts in his eyes.
Okay.
Right.
It's a really cool reveal.
Yeah, that's a cool way to reveal.
But yeah, it's so crazy to me that they literally rub this in your face throughout the entire movie.
I think that's what makes a good twist.
Yeah, you almost have to watch it twice.
It makes it more fun to watch it a second time to see all the hints that you missed before.
After watching the Book of Eli, I realized Frozen is child's play because there's a lot of moments.
It is a child's movie.
It is a child. Yeah, but it's Disney, which is known for working with Pixar, which is also known for having kids movies with like adult undertones.
Right, but it's not a Pixar movie.
It's not a Pixar movie, granted. Frozen's like child's play in comparison to the twist in the Book of Eli, because when you watch Frozen again, when I watch it back, I'm like, some of this stuff doesn't make sense. Why is he smiling at Anna as she walks away when we know he's going to turn on her later? And why does he have this love-struck grin? Why does he save Elsa from the Wesselton thugs who are going to assassinate her just so he can kill her later? That one's a little more arguable, but...
That's for playground debate.
Yeah. Like the weirdest playground debate ever.
Yeah.
I see kids on the playground all the time just looking at each other like, I think the twist in Frozen's stupid.
So this doing this topic for this podcast was your idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to do this one?
I've wanted to rant about this for months, years, never had the platform.
So now you have a platform.
Now I have a platform.
You're going after it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you to achieve your dreams.
Yeah. I've noticed this pattern now in movies where a lot of twists now are kind of like the twist in Frozen, where they don't give anything away. You can't, unlike the Book of Eli, they don't give you anything to go off of. Now, this isn't a movie, but it's a more recent example I can think of. It's Pokemon Shield.
There's a twist in Pokemon Shield.
This is a movie podcast, Colin.
I know. Just briefly, in the post game in Pokemon Shield, there is an assistant to the professor that gets recently hired on after you beat the game that turns out to be working for the new villains at the end of the game.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
But my problem with that is that there's no indication of that.
Yeah, when you spring a plot twist with no setup, it can kind of feel like I didn't know how to end this story, but I want people to remember it even though I didn't earn it. So here's a Shyamalan plot twist on you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the mark of a good or a bad plot twist.
Yeah.
How much setup went into it in the story?
I feel like we should maybe define exactly what a plot twist is.
I actually have this definition if you want to pass it to me. I've thought about this way too much over the years.
Go ahead.
So a plot twist. I say I've thought about it a lot, and then my brain immediately went dead. So a plot twist, or at the very least a good plot twist, is kind of seen but not heard. Okay? So going back to the Book of Eli, because that's just what I know. Going back to the Book of Eli, you can see bits and pieces. You know, it makes sense in the world because Eli acts like a blind person. He doesn't, you don't see him just like shooting people like Neo, perfect shots every time because he's blind. If he was doing perfect shots, just like gunning everyone down, killing everyone like effortlessly as if he could see, then it would kind of not make sense in the end when he's like, oh, he's blind. He's like, okay, but you show him looking at people and all this other various stuff. I don't know if that made any sense.
Right.
But,
so a plot twist is where it's a point in the movie, usually towards the end, where everything you think you know about what the story was going on and the characters is completely flipped on its head and is pretty much the opposite of what the movie was led you to believe up until that point. And then it's a good twist. It makes you think about everything that happened from the beginning, and you see it from a new light.
I don't think there are lots of positive plot twists. I think a lot of good plot twists usually end up leaving things on a darker note.
It's kind of a crutch.
That's one thing I noticed.
It's kind of a crutch by kind of like shoddy director writers when like you said earlier, it's they can't think of a good way to end the movie, so they're just gonna suddenly just change what the motives were all of a sudden, and then you're just supposed to be blown away. But then when you go to watch it again, you're like, this twist makes no sense, and it just makes the movie worse.
It's funny you say that. Going back to Frozen real quick, There's a little something I know about Frozen that happened behind the scenes. Initially, Elsa was actually supposed to be the villain of the story, but then
That would have been a cool twist.
Well, what happened was it was just going to be like your standard Disney movie, like with Elsa being like the Maleficent of Frozen. She was just going to be the villain. Then music department came back with Let It Go, and they heard the song and they were like, "This is a really good song, but it's a little too empowering for the villain of the story."
Yeah.
That song won the Oscar that year, didn't it?
Yeah,
So,
I think it was definitely everywhere in my house. It was playing constantly.
yeah. So the writers were like, let's rewrite the story so that Elsa isn't the villain. I think what was going to happen, this is speculation, this part here. I think what was going to happen was Anna was going to end up with Hans, Kristoff and Elsa were going to be an item, and then the Wesselton guy was going to be the actual bad guy. But then the rewrites happened. They decided, let's break conventions more, have Anna fall in love with Kristoff, but we have to make it so that Anna doesn't seem like a terrible person, because you can't just have this character be like, look, Hans, I got to talk to you, man. Like, I thought this was going to work, but as it turns out, marrying a person you just met that day is actually a really bad idea, and maybe we should see other people. I guess they didn't want her to do that because it made her seem unlikable. Again, pure speculation. So how do you make Anna not look like an a-hole? Oh, I know.
Make Hans an a-hole.
Exactly. And that's
Change the a-hole.
Yeah, that's pure speculation on my part, but I think it makes a lot of sense because the Wesselton guy, who is the red herring now, who's up for the villain, he is there for the beginning of the movie. You see him a couple times up to the point where Hans is going after Elsa, and he sends his men to kill her. And then he just disappears for the rest of the movie, and you see him like 2 other times for the rest of the movie, for hours.
Oh,
he stopped being important.
Yeah.
So when you rewatch the movie, keeping that twist in mind, does the movie work?
I mean, yes,
you see it in play.
It works. I'm not saying the twist is bad. All right, I don't want people to think that Frozen's twist is fine. You know, it does what it's supposed to do. It shocks the audience.
It's just a simple, rudimentary twist.
I think when it comes to making a twist, there's 2 really important aspects, and that's in the writing and then in the execution. Because
absolutely,
an example, the newest Joker movie, I know we already did a podcast about this, but I think the example is really good, is the twist. You've all seen Joker.
Nope, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, basically, there's for a while in the movie, he's got this girlfriend that you would never think would fall for him. And then it's revealed he goes into her apartment and she doesn't recognize him. She's like, "Oh, you're the guy from down the hall, right?" And he's like, "I've had a bad day." And that's enough. Story-wise, when it comes to the script, that's great, because you can gather from the fact that she doesn't recognize him, oh, he was imagining everything.
Right.
But in the Joker movie, after that, it does like a flashback sequence where it shows every time he was with her.
It does the Fight Club thing.
Yeah, it does a Fight Club, and I thought, personally, it was fine without doing the flashbacks.
I felt that too when I watched it, that if, like, when he said, oh, I had a bad day, and she's like, "Oh, I remember you were that guy from the hall," and like if they left it like that, I thought that would have been really clever and it would have treated its audience as intelligent.
Yeah, audiences are smart. You don't need to put everything on a big sign and say, "Look at this."
Yeah.
Like, we made a twist for you.
Yeah, literally, as you were describing it to me, as someone who hasn't seen the movie, as you were describing it, I was just like, well, this sounds like a really good twist. And then you were like, and then there's this flashback where they show you all these parts, and I was like, oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
Now I don't like it anymore.
And really quick, I feel like I'll tell you guys my favorite twist would be spoilers, first of all, for Usual Suspects. I don't want to have to spoil it for the sake of this podcast. So if you haven't seen it, please do watch it. It's great.
That goes for the Book of Eli, but I guess it's a little late to say that now. Continue.
Yeah. So again, we already warned you about spoilers, but do please watch it. I know there are people that hear the spoiler warnings and then just don't. I promise you, Usual Suspects is worth it. So Usual Suspects is a crime drama, mainly starring Kevin Spacey. No matter how you feel about him now, he did an excellent performance in this movie. And the movie starts off basically, there's this detective, and there was a bunch of stuff that went down, and you don't know about it yet. In Usual Suspects, they bring in Kevin Spacey's character. He's this cripple called Verbal Kint. And the detective starts questioning him, and he talks about how it all started up at this weird police lineup that he met all these guys, these 3 other criminals, and they went through a series of heists. And the story is narrated by Kevin Spacey talking to the detective. And they started off the movie with this boat that blew up, and all these guys are dead, and they don't know what went wrong because Kevin Spacey's the only one left. And throughout the course of the movie, every now and then, Kevin Spacey will bring up, like, yeah, back when I crushed fresh coffee beans in Guatemala. And he's like, hey, stay on topic, dude. You talk too much. And he's like, well, that's why they call me verbal. And basically, there's this character that keeps being brought up, this legend among criminals called Kaiser Soze.
Kaiser Soze.
Everyone's scared of him. There's this guy in the hospital. They're like, what happened? Because he survived the thing. He's like, it was Kaiser Soze. Kaiser Soze. And they talk about how he's this boogeyman. They're like, he's probably not real. He's just meant to scare people. You know, rat on your dad for dealing drugs, and Kaiser Soze will get you. It gets to a point later on in the story where they're like, oh my God, I think one of the guys you were working with was Kaiser Soze. And Kevin Spacey's character's crying, and he's like, look, turn state's evidence and we can protect you. And he's like, no, I'm not a rat, Agent Kuyan. And then he leaves, and as that happens, the detective's drinking some coffee, and he looks over at the board that was behind him the whole time.
I just want to jump in. You've probably seen jokes like SNL sketches.
Oh, probably.
Where this joke has been done a million times since this movie. So I feel like this twist it's kind of known by a lot of people.
Here's the thing. I don't know the twist, okay, but I think I see where it's going.
Yeah, basically he looks at the thing at the wall and
Kevin Spacey?
No, he sees that Kevin Spacey has been taking all the stuff on the board and fabricating the story. Everything he told him was a complete lie. Like, he talked about this guy named Kobayashi, and he looks underneath his cup, and it says Kobayashi in it. And when he mentioned the Guatemalan beans, there's a poster that says Guatemala on it. He goes out to go get him, and by that time he's left. What's really cool is they do kind of hint at it, because in the intro, this Kaiser Soze guy has a gold cigarette lighter, and as Kevin Spacey's character's leaving, they're like, oh, one watch, gold, one cigarette lighter, gold. So it's cool to, when you watch it a second time, you can see what Kevin Spacey's character said that did happen and what he just lied about. And you find out he's not even actually a cripple. But again, this was such a successful movie that a lot of people already know it, whether they knew that they knew it or not, just because of the amount of parodies.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like a great twist and the way to do it.
There's a term where there's something in the public consciousness that even without you having to go and seeing the movie, you just know it. Like, everybody in the world knows that Darth Vader's Luke Skywalker's dad. Even if you haven't seen the movie, there's a word for that where it's permeated the public consciousness. It's pretty interesting. So, like, that Usual Suspects thing, it's like, it's so common that like they've made so many jokes about that like a lot of people, like, they remember that.
It's almost
that,
unfortunate because you'll try to show someone.
Yeah, like there's a great Key and Peele skit where they do that.
They've done parodies of it everywhere, but I think it really is one of those movies that even if you've heard what the twist is, it's worth watching just to actually because it's hard to appreciate a twist if all you know about is the twist.
That's another marker of a good movie with a twist in it is if you know the twist going in and like the movie's just boring because you know what the twist is, it's not a great movie.
Yeah. You don't want to crutch your whole movie on we have a twist.
Right. And then that gets out becomes part of the buzz of the marketing when the movies come out. Like, you won't believe the twist that happens in this movie.
That's the thing. A movie with a twist, the twist will only stay secret for the first week or so of it being in theaters before everyone says it's got a great twist.
It's interesting you guys say this because I keep dragging it back to Frozen, but
Disney, we can't escape your long arm.
Nobody can.
They will own the world.
Eventually.
Once again, bringing it back to Frozen. You guys talk about how once you kind of know the twist, it kind of the movie becomes boring to watch. So what does that say about Frozen, though? Because as I was saying, you can't really see the twist in Frozen coming because they don't hint at it at all.
That's not what I was saying. I was saying it's hard to keep a twist. I meant
okay.
I meant when you poorly execute a twist, it becomes boring to watch. If it's something like Usual Suspects and you already know the twist, the movie's still great to watch because as you're watching it, you forget that because it takes so long to get to the twist, you forget where it even is supposed to happen, and it surprises you all over again.
Right.
So what's an example of a movie with a bad twist?
Frozen.
Any recent Shyamalan movie, I think.
Yeah, what was the last Shyamalan movie? Oh, it was Glass. That didn't have
No.
Yeah, Glass.
It's a thing that Shyamalan's known for throwing twists in when they're not needed.
Yeah, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable. What you did, The Happening.
What was the movie with the old people where they were trying to kill the kids?
I know what you're talking
The Visit.
about. Yeah, was that The Visit?
Yeah. I haven't seen that, but I did read what the twist was. It's like somebody's going to visit their grandparents, but it turns out the grandparents are just crazy.
Yeah, they're not even the grandparents.
That's the twist, is that they're just crazy.
Yeah, I guess they killed the grandparents or something along those lines.
I've got an old school twist for you guys. I doubt you've seen this movie. My Bloody Valentine. It was made in Canada. It's about this guy, this miner who an actual miner in a mining town, not a kid. Basically, at one night on Valentine's Day, the mine collapsed because two guys left early to go to the Valentine's dance, which I did not know was a thing. Him and a couple other of coal miners are trapped under there, and by the time they find him, he had cannibalized the other two, and he was traumatized. And then they talk about and then the next year at the Valentine's dance, he killed the men responsible, so we don't have the Valentine dance here anymore. And then of course this is a horror movie, so they're like, you know what's a good idea? Let's have that dance again.
Exactly.
Bunch of teenagers doing the classic. Anyone who is kissing anyone is gonna get murdered, and the lonely nerd will live. And it's that whole situation. And they're like, how did this guy escape? It said he died at the asylum. And then this kid, they're fighting the bad guy, and they rip off his gas mask, and it's one of the other kids.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? And flashback, it was his dad that got killed that night, and he was underneath the thing. So he was just a copycat killer.
I haven't even seen that movie, and I was just like, I think I see what's happening.
Yeah, that one's like a
I think that was the exact thing that happened in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
What do you guys think, based on everything we've talked about today? What makes for a really good twist?
I think proper setup and an execution that acknowledges the audience's intelligence. Sure, there are dumb moviegoers, but you really have to, the people that will take the time to review your movie and spread the word, they're smart enough to see a twist coming. So you got to really take into account audience intelligence and respect that.
Right. Sean?
Yeah, and that the movie is definitely watchable and rewatchable, having known the twist and just watchable in the first place. The twist hits you.
Yep. You should be able to watch it at least 2 times and enjoy yourself.
Exactly. I stand by what I said earlier. I don't know if I got too deep into it. It's the same thing I've thought this whole time. A twist should be seen but not heard because it helps it make sense in the universe. If your character is blind, they should act like they're blind, even if you plan on making that a surprise reveal later. If your killer is actually one of the other kids, you should be able to kind of see that coming. Mm-hmm. Because you can argue that makes your twist predictable. I don't believe so.
It just makes it logical.
Yeah, exactly. It makes, and also I think even a predictable twist, which we didn't really get to, we didn't have time to get to it. A predictable twist, I think, is kind of fun.
Yeah, because it makes it kind of fun for the viewer. You go, right. Oh, I think this is going to happen.
It's kind of fun to walk into the movie and be like, hey, that's the bad guy.
If anything, it adds a layer of audience participation in a way.
I think that's really fun. So I guess what I'm trying to say is movie makers out there in the world, don't be Frozen. Hint at the twist a little bit. It doesn't give it away as long as you're subtle. Just give us the chance to kind of figure it out. If you do it smart enough, if you're like the Book of Eli, we're not going to be able to tell by the end.
I want to say a couple things. Colin, please go watch more movies.
I should.
Something other than Frozen. I'll give you some DVDs.
Yeah, and two, I wanted to just do a quick, like you guys did some deep dives on some of your favorite twist movies.
Yeah, let's hear what you got to say, man.
I just wanted to do a quick run through of some really good movie twists. Obviously, Star Wars, one of the most famous and greatest twists of all time.
I'm your father.
Which, yeah, in retrospect, not that great because they didn't plan it. They just, it wasn't the fact in the first one, and then you just had to make it up in the second one. We got Memento. Christopher Nolan's like his first famous movie that got him big.
Oh yeah,
fantastic twist, and the whole setup of the movie is insane. The whole thing is backwards, so the twist happens at the beginning of the movie, but it happens at the end of the movie. That's a movie you got to watch like 4 or 5 times to really get it.
Yeah.
Fight Club, super good, great twist. It's so like ingeniously done the whole time. Like you can rewatch that movie, you see these little clues from the beginning of it. Like everything that Brad Pitt is doing, it's such a brilliant movie.
I think what made the Fight Club twist really good was the fact that was before we were. I feel like lots of movies now, we're kind of numb to the concept of this character is insane, so we can't trust what they're saying. I think part of it has to do with what the audiences are used to.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because like Fight Club was a fresh idea, but we've seen so many other characters have a personality disorder before.
So you touched on the audience and things we expect. I think at this point, audiences become smart enough that they have, even people who don't watch movies too much, have a general grasp on storytelling and how storytelling goes. You can kind of see like the usual tropes and archetypes. Like, yeah, that guy's clearly the double agent because it's this story I can see is very similar to this story.
Yeah, this is our hero arc.
Yeah.
The sad reality of it is really that the longer we go on making movies, the harder it's going to be to surprise people with them. That doesn't mean that is not meant to discourage any filmmakers out there. If anything, this is more of a reason to experiment with new things because you never know when it will catch on and become the next greatest movie of all time.
Yeah, exactly. Just try something new and, just try it, like just as an experiment, just try to make a movie with a twist in it. Just to learn how that goes.
Even if you don't show it to anybody, or show it to one person and see how effective it is.
Or if you don't have the resources to make a movie, just write a screenplay. Make a script and be like, hey, I wrote this, could you read it for me?
You never know who will find it and
end
up using it.
Oh, I wanted to say Us. Jordan Peele came out early last year in 2019. Amazing movie, amazing twist. I can't believe it didn't get nominated for anything.
I feel like part of the reason it didn't get nominated is because he was fresh off of Get Out, maybe, and they didn't want to immediately.
Yeah, that's the political part of the Oscars. It's so I hate that. Yeah. Like just give it on its own merits.
Don't trust the Oscars. That's not what people really think. Listen to stuff like Red Letter Media, for one, is one of my favorites when it comes to movie reviewing.
What is that?
It's these guys. They have their own internet show and they review different movies and they, for me at least, they do a really good job of breaking down what makes movies work. For example, they went through the Star Wars prequels each episode and they're like hour-long videos and they're comedic because it's a silly character that's doing it. But he goes through step by step what's wrong with it, how some scenes don't have enough character in it, and then he suggests alternative ideas on what would have been really cool if they had done it.
Okay.
I started smiling and nodding right around Oscars and Us because I was just like, yep, haven't seen that one.
Watch movies.
I need to.
We need to create a GoFundMe for Colin to go to the movie theater. I will put in $5 right now. It
is a weird, fascinating thing that even I don't understand. I know so much about movies for someone who hasn't seen a lot of movies. Granted, I've watched a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows. I recently got into anime last year. But somehow I just haven't seen a lot of the important movies. I don't know why. It's just
I'll bring you a case of DVDs. Don't worry.
Great.
I'll be like, this is your homework for the next year.
Speaking of TV shows, The Good Place on NBC, that has a twist at the end of season 1 that completely changes the entire series, and it's a great show.
Flipped on
it completely. You just go back to the beginning of season 1, and then it's just it's an amazing show. Check it out.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to The Bear Cave today. I've been your host, Colin, alongside Drew and Shawn. Go watch a good movie with a twist this week and tell us what you think about it. I'm now going to slowly fade in the outro music that's just default on here. And we will see you guys next time.
Editor, keep in all of Colin's mistakes, please. It's what we need more of in this world, because everyone makes mistakes.